Hello everybody. Am I writing? Is it? Oh yes, our. Hello Luana. Hello Andrea. A very simple post here. So how are you guys doing? Luana, Andrea, how was your morning? You are here in Brazil, right? That's what I assume. What are your plans for this afternoon, Andrea? Andrea, do you speak Italian? Very good. So, do you have any plans for this afternoon? Are you going to study English? Or how have you been studying English? Travou? Hello, Ian. That's okay. I asked if you have plans to study this afternoon. And what kind of, do you have a routine? How do you practice? How do you practice the language? Hello, Ian. Hello, teacher Shiva. Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining the live. So how are you? Teacher Shiva, where are you from? Are you Brazilian? So we are waiting. Today we'll be talking. Hello, Caliton? No, Caliton, yes, Antonio. Today we'll be talking to Jonathan. I don't know, you might follow him already. We'll be talking a lot. I was going to say a little, but it's a lot about language learning, especially English. Hello, Badaejo. How are you? And oh, Iran, cool, so cool. You can't hear me, but it's is it something on your phone? Oh, okay, let me call Jonathan. Okay, hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm great, thank you. What about you?
Doing great, great. Thank you again for the invitation.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having accepted. I think I should have restarted my phone because every time I do these lives, the other person, the image is not very. The sound is
live. No, it's like like this.
Yeah, but it's. I think I can
Let
hear.
me see.
No, I can't hear him, but the image is a little
Okay.
jumpy. So
I can hear you, I can see you fine.
Can you introduce yourself to the followers?
Yes, of course.
Tell
Yeah,
us
so
a little
hi.
bit about. You have so much. I was thinking, you have so much to talk about you as an English teacher, your work online on the internet, your blog, the challenge. You as a polyglot. You start however you want. You prefer.
So, yeah, I think you've touched on everything there. So hi everyone following here. So I'm Jonathan. I'm an English teacher from the United States. I currently live in Mexico City, and as Erica mentioned, I organized a speaking challenge. I've been doing that for over a year and a half now, and I also study several languages. I practice them in the challenge that I organize, and for the students I help for teaching English, I have a lot of students who are preparing for the TOEFL exam, so they can go study in the United States or other countries, and I also help those students with their essays for like the statement of purpose, the like personal statement, those documents as well, and also lots of students who are immigrating to other countries and wanting to get better at kind of assimilating, getting used to the culture, and improving speaking, writing skills, getting ready for job interviews, things like that. So I have a lot to offer for students.
Yes.
I've been teaching for many years. Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk first. Yeah, let's talk first about your job as an English teacher. So I think I watched it recently, a master class with a Brazilian student. You were preparing. Yeah, I forgot his name, but so do you
Altamiro,
have? What's his name again?
Yeah, Altamiro. Yeah.
Altamiro. Okay. Do you have many Brazilian students?
I'm starting to get more. The Instagram is extremely active for Brazilians, and I've made contact with lots of English teachers who are Brazilian. So that's been a really interesting development, to meet so many teachers and to get familiar with more and more students as well. So I have worked with a handful of students for the exam, mostly for the exam. For conversational practice, maybe a little bit less. Some students maybe going to the US to travel a little bit, or a few who have moved and lived there. But it's starting to increase a little bit.
That's very nice. So I started teaching before the internet, and now I have started using Instagram just recently. It's been a year for me as an English teacher, and yes, and on YouTube also we have a channel. It's been a year also, and I love it. You have, right? You have both. You have an Instagram account, and I'm going to leave the links here below. Okay, after.
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel, but it's one of those slightly embarrassing things where I've got more videos than subscribers. I've made something like 500 videos in the last 3 or something years, but I think trends change. So I think what we're doing here, like an Instagram Live, the advice that I was getting maybe 2 years ago was go do that on YouTube. But the engagement was not quite the same. Like the chat area, it would disappear immediately after the video. So like any of the engagement would kind of disappear. I mean, Instagram as well. I mean, once this live finishes after like 24 hours, all these comments, they'll kind of disappear as well. But I think the 30-minute, 1 hour talking live, trying to teach something on YouTube, that just, it doesn't work as well. I think people want shorter and shorter videos there, and edited. So, like here on Instagram, we can talk for an hour, but it's going to disappear like 24 hours from now or something like that. So
this one will not. The video will not, but the comments will. And that's why I need your links. You need to send me all the links. You have a website, right, for the challenge, for everything.
Yeah,
but
I appreciate that.
Our channel is kind of small too. But we make a lot of videos. So we have a lot of videos, and maybe it will surpass the amount of followers we have on YouTube. But I feel it's more like an exercise in practice. You know, I think it's important to acquire. This is the kind of skill I feel it's important to acquire at this point. You know, we can't just avoid technology, and the sooner we get acquainted with it, the better. That's why I make so many videos.
I'm definitely experimenting as well. I think I've just done a lot of these, like, hey, here I'm talking. Now I'm starting to get into video editing. I've been doing it a little bit slightly with with some of my Instagram videos, just like in a 1-minute format, try to experiment with that, and then gradually take it a little bit longer for like a 5-minute, 10-minute YouTube video. But it's kind of a work in progress to get familiar with the technology, like you said.
Yes, what I feel is that editing takes a very, very long time. Actually, the whole thing takes a very long time, because we write the scripts, and then you need to practice, and then you record many times, and then you have to edit. It's a very long process. To make, so we try to streamline it as much as we can, but we still have to. But I consider everything like acquiring skills, and it's good. It's like, right?
And you're incredible. I think from what I've seen for like your practice videos and being like present and active, you set a very high standard on consistency and accountability. So I have this obsessive, it's obvious, right? This kind of obsessive streak, right? I can't stop now. I can't break the streak. And the way I feel I do it both as an English teacher, as a language student. And I feel that I need to do that. I need to push myself to do it every day. And it's every day, on holidays, weekends, etc. I know it's not for everybody. I know that. But I think it gives me, oh my God, that's the word I always forget. It's a kind of a speed. I kind of speed up. And the brakes slow me down. Yeah. So I think, do you feel that too? Because you have been, as a language learner, you have been recording like how many videos now? In a row. It's getting crazy. Yeah, I think as of August, something clicked finally, and I've just kept going. So this has now been 4 consecutive months plus a week. So that's like at least 120 days, and I'm pushing myself to not only record myself in one language, but doing this in 6 languages. Last month, I started making some recordings in Portuguese in addition to this 6. So this is now getting up to 7 languages. It's getting crazy, but it's surprising. I mean, once you adapt to a rhythm, the rhythm becomes a new standard. And then you see like, okay, now what can I do? How can I expand slightly, or how can I tweak this, improve it? So yeah, once I don't know, it's like juggling. Once you figure that out, now you can kind of tweak some things. But
this is exactly how I feel. Yeah, exactly.
You're kind of like, oh wow, somebody else gets this. So it's a pleasure to watch your videos, your progress, and see like, okay, you've figured out, I think, maybe a little bit of the bite-sized format of like working on specific sentences. So that, I think that's very, very targeted, very specific on how you can benefit from like the vocabulary you want to learn, or just the grammar. And I see, luckily for your Polish studies, I see like there are a couple active Polish speakers who are able to kind of give you some of that.
Yes, I'm very lucky. So I feel very lucky to have, So
that's a pleasure to see that's working, or at least that aspect of the challenge is working.
Yes. No, I can't stop now. This challenge, I need to continue. So, Jonathan, a question here. People are asking here, and students and learners ask all the time, how do I get to speak a language? How do I start speaking a language, and how do I improve my speaking? So you host this challenge, right? Talk a little more about the challenge.
Yeah, so this challenge like evolved through a couple different experiences. So one, I took part as a challenger, as a participant in a 12-week program. I was learning Russian. And that seemed to be very effective. I got like fully immersed, and just I was trying to make recordings, but I was not very consistent. And then I was getting also a little overwhelmed because of just all the chat that was going on in this foreign language that I just couldn't follow. Then I took part in another challenge. There, everything was in English, but it was really much like sink or swim, and you kind of have to figure things out on your own. It was a bit of there's some scaffolding, but you had to figure out what worked for you. They weren't kind of going to hand it to you. And one of the things of that program was record yourself on day 0, day 30, day 60, day 90, so that you could get to like a 15-minute conversation. I decided after a week, I'm just going to start recording myself every day. So I did create a YouTube playlist of like 90, 100 daily videos, recording myself for like 5-10 minutes in Russian. And that's where I got the most benefit, was just recording myself and just speaking. After that program, I crashed really hard. I couldn't keep up that rhythm. I went on vacation or something. And then I had like a real big burnout for several months. And I was like, what's going on with my language practice? And a year after joining that program, I figured, like, a friend of mine said he was learning the same language, Russian. And I said, hey, how about we just challenge ourselves to record ourselves for like 30 days? So I really just started the challenge on a whim. It was a, hey, why don't we just record ourselves? And as I kind of overdo things, I just put that out there on Facebook and a couple of different language groups. And I said, hey, I'm going to be recording myself for 30 days. Anybody else want to join me? And enough people joined. There was like probably about 67 people who joined. We were just kind of tweaking it, testing it, seeing what worked, what didn't. And I realized that for a lot of people, we kind of struggle with, well, now what do I talk about today? Because when I was doing the YouTube list, it was just, now what do I talk about? Now what do I talk about? So I got kind of tired of, what am I doing today? What are my plans for tomorrow? Maybe read a newspaper article. I just tried everything for like 90, 100 days. I figured out kind of what kinds of things worked. So fast forward, this program is now it's in the 21st consecutive month. I've definitely been tweaking a lot of things, seeing what works, seeing what people need practice with. It's always the same things. It's always grammar, expanding vocabulary, working on pronunciation, developing confidence, getting over a fear of mistakes, maybe not having a practice partner, maybe not having a teacher to work with, maybe not having somebody local. So this idea, record yourself just for a few minutes, it really does benefit a lot of people. It's not just me doing like, hey, come join this thing, it's a miracle. It's not a miracle. You do have to put some hard work in there. But the platform, the variety of topics, the community support, it's just a combination of everything that kind of just taking the things that work and trying to mitigate the things that would like not work for people to get them into a habit, consistency, support, group learning. Just anything that works, I want to kind of put it in there to see. Yes,
I think being part of a group is one of the most important things. You're not alone, and you know that there are other people to support you, to encourage you to move on, and native speakers, right, and other people. And you can see other people doing the same, trying hard, everybody making mistakes, and you see that you're not alone, right? You can see that because of the videos. So you mentioned some points here. I would like you to talk a little bit more about them. So the first thing is about this idea of recording, because the first time I saw I saw this idea somewhere was 4 years ago when I started learning German. Oh my God, I forgot the name of this polyglot. I think she's British. It's a woman. I forgot her name. But
Kirsten Cable, maybe? Or
no, not her.
Lindsay Williams.
The other one. Another one.
That's British. Who else?
She has long blonde hair. I forgot her name. Oh my God. But I was following people on Facebook, and I started following her, and I noticed that she posted videos there. She was the first, and I think the only person whose videos I could watch. And she was doing that. She was recording herself to practice an Eastern language, Asian language. And I saw her videos there, and then I...
Oh, Katie Harris? Katie Harris, Joy of Languages?
No.
Okay.
No, she works a lot with being shy, you know, overcoming your shyness, and to record yourself. I will write it down here later. But she's fabulous. She's a polyglot. She knows many languages, and she does that. She records herself. And then I said, oh, maybe I should do that, because I was trying to practice speaking, and I was registering those sites where, you know, there is language exchange. There were many sites at the time, 4 years ago. I don't know now, because I gave up on these sites. I thought they were like a waste of time for me. It was not efficient. I couldn't find people fast enough to practice. And there was no other way. So how am I going to practice speaking? I'm going to record myself. But I wasn't part of any community, and I recorded like 2 videos, uploaded them to YouTube and to Instagram too. And that was it. I gave up. And then I stopped practicing German for, it's been 3 to 4 years. And last year, I started recording the videos for YouTube for my English, the English course. And in the end of last year, it's been exactly 1 year, Bruna, my student, she told me about Instagram. Yeah, she was using Instagram to practice English. And then the idea of recording came back to my head. And I said, Bruna, how about recording yourself? And I told all my students to do that. And it was very hard. It was very hard, because I had to kind of make them record themselves in class, you know, for a while, just to experience doing that. But it's very hard. It's very hard. Bruna is now recording. She's getting used to it. So she's still, after a year, recording herself. But in the end, to sum up, what do you think about this idea? How do you think it works better for some people? It's not for everybody, you know?
Yeah, I think what you've mentioned here of like there are examples. There are people who've been doing this. I remember watching like Tim Donor. I think he had done some like adolescent, teenage TED Talk, and saying he was recording himself like YouTube. And a long time ago, just I don't know how long ago, but on YouTube, just the comments were just really, really nasty. People could get really critical.
Yes.
So YouTube had this kind of like, you could go claim to be a polyglot and record yourself and do all this stuff, but you kind of were at the risk of all these people being very critical, like, you don't know what you're talking about and all that. So I was kind of shy about wanting to expose myself to that, but I figured, if this is going to give me some accountability, and seeing Tim's talk and seeing like there was more benefits to this than potential kind of criticism or feedback. So I looked at it more on the positive side. And when I went into this for recording myself, it was just do it. Just kind of the Nike, just do it.
Yes. That's the...
I did embarrass myself. I did embarrass myself a lot. I think there were times, there's one recording I can think of in Russian. It was just like at midnight. I'm in the middle of reading a news article, and I fall asleep on camera and then switch into Spanish and then wake up and then like go back into Russian. And like, there's a video out there.
So that video got more views.
Probably got more views. But in terms of who this is appropriate for the speaking challenge, I first encourage people to focus on audio because there's a lot of time, I think, as you can see for like content production as a teacher, it's like, okay, your background, the settings, the lighting, the camera, like that, those distractions can really stop you from just getting started. So for somebody just doing speaking, I don't want like, okay, how's your hair? How's the makeup? How's the lighting? How's the background? Like, how are my clothes? Is this a mess where I am? Like, I don't want any of that to be an obstacle. So it's like, okay, no obstacles, no excuses.
Yes.
Just record yourself speaking.
Cool.
So,
very cool.
So that was the first thing, is just get people speaking. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what the background is. Then some people get used to that, and then they realize, like, hey, we're just kind of listening to each other. We don't really know what each other kind of look like. Some people do transition into feeling comfortable on camera, and that's great. I mean, I don't want to push everybody there, but if you get more comfortable on a YouTube video or an Instagram video, or a video that you record but you make it kind of unlisted on YouTube, or you record it on your phone and you download it and then upload it to a cloud, like, I don't know, Google Drive or whatever, so it's kind of private but the community can access to it, that's perfectly fine. I have also seen a lot of students from some countries in, like, the Middle East, where they may not want to wish to be on camera for, I don't know, either their privacy or for some of those concerns. So doing audio is perfectly fine. There's also shy, kind of timid, nervous, anxious, worried kind of learners who really don't want to be on camera. So just doing audio is a good way to get started. It's a step up from just working on reading, listening, writing skills, and then always neglecting the speaking part. So this is kind of just do audio, get used to that. Also, the audio, I have to encourage a lot of people, like, do it once. just do it once, publish it.
Instead of re-recording many times?
Yeah, they'll listen. I made that mistake, and they'll delete it. It's kind of like watching somebody playing a video game, and, like, they want to get that perfect score on, like, the level 1, so they're like, they hit reset on the game, and then they'll start over again until it's perfect. And that kind of just encourages people to, like, be a little bit more obsessed on perfectionism and realize, like, we need to hear the mistakes. So yeah, you need to hear the mistakes so you can see where you're going, like, a month from now. Like, if you start off perfect, it's going to be a little harder to convince yourself, like, oh, I've improved. So make as many mistakes as you want, and then you go, like, wow, I've really improved when you get to the end of the month.
Excellent.
I think.
Very nice. Okay, well, GH, I have other questions, but GH is asking, GH Nargs Ing, how can we encourage students to be active speakers? I would recommend taking part of the speaking challenge and recording yourself. If you prefer, record an audio. That's perfectly fine. I agree with you. Yeah. You can read the text out loud, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, anything that makes you feel comfortable to get started. If you want to read, if you want to write what you're going to say, your script, that's perfectly fine.
I do that. I've been doing that for this whole time.
Oh, definitely, that works. I think anything that gives you a foot, like a foothold or like a foot in the door, you have to start somewhere. Start in your comfort zone to get little by little, like, out of the comfort zone. But you have to pronounce the word somehow, right?
Even without recording, you can just do it by yourself. But you have to articulate the words. You have to use the muscles of your mouth to pronounce, to say the words. And then you work up from there. You do different things to practice. The other thing is about tweaking, because that's what I do. And it never stops. So this is what I want to ask you about, because I think sometimes students have this impression that there is an ideal way to study, which is static and fixed, and that's the miracle way to study. And I don't feel that way as a language learner.
Variety, I think, is an important thing in studying. Just yesterday, I was listening to, like, asking a question in the challenge of, what is your study routine? How do you practice? What do you learn? And listening to at least like 20 to 25 people, and kind of like in trying to recognize, like, who is active, who has been participating, and what's working for them, and trying to kind of figure out what are these best practices? And I think variety is very key. Doing different things to just always keep yourself interested. Making sure that you keep your interests, your what you like involved in the materials to keep yourself engaged, because if you are using something that's boring, there's a tendency to kind of pull back and want to give up. But if you find something that you like, you're going to lean in and be more engaged. Also, multitasking, that's something I was noticing, is all of these like downtime moments where maybe in the morning when you're getting ready, like getting dressed or preparing food or eating, a good practice was listening to music, listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, listening to the news in a foreign language. You certainly do this. I definitely see this on your your feed. I can see that you are kind of posting things you've been listening to, music in a foreign language, and taking advantage of those times. I think I see you and your husband with the headphones on when you're outdoors. So definitely taking advantage of maybe exercise and listening to something. So yeah, definitely take advantage of those moments to be doing two things. Like it's figure out ways to incorporate the language learning into the day, not necessarily try to mark off a piece of like an hour here or there, but try to merge
to incorporate it into your life, right? It's not something like, oh, now it's time to study, and it's something away apart from you. It's not, right? It should be part of you, part of you, of your life, and not something like that's something that's very far away from you. It will be far away to achieve. It will be difficult to achieve your goals also if it's not part of you, I guess. But I was asking about tweaking because in my case, I don't know if you've noticed, but I tend to be very minimalist with everything, including language learning in some aspects. So for example, I'm focusing on Polish now. And when I say minimalist, very streamlined. And this is not boring for me. So I always, for all these, I think 5 months, this is the 6th month now in your challenge, I've been doing kind of the same thing. I write my script, and then I record, and I practice, I record. What I mean by tweaking, you were mentioning this before, is like these small changes because I want to experiment with something a little bit different. Maybe it's the duration of the recording or the script. Sometimes it's the kind of vocabulary I'm using. A few months ago, I was using more advanced vocabulary just to practice, because my intention now is to focus on pronunciation and get used to the patterns of the language, make my brain remember these patterns. And I think that, I mean, I have been getting used to Polish, and it's not so hard to remember certain words because of that. But this kind of small, very, very small changes that we make, that we do to our learning process, right? So what I mean is, you said it's important to incorporate and to experiment different things. Variety is important, but also because our routines change, right? And there are these unexpected events that happen too. So being able to be flexible and make these small changes, it will always, what I'm saying is that I think this will always happen. You know, you will never reach a point where you don't need to change anything anymore. I don't know. It's an impression that I have.
Yeah, tweaking is definitely important. I try to kind of imagine this like being on the sailboat. I mean, you can have a course that you can have like you're going that direction, but you constantly have to tack. I mean, in sailing terminology, tacking is adapting to the wind, so that you're like unless you have like a motor, unless you have a motor, you can't just go in a straight line. You need to adapt. You constantly have to adapt, and you constantly have to be adjusting to the wind changes and all that. And and you can't just set that like on cruise control and just go. So being willing to adapt, and like you said here, there's no kind of perfect routine. Now that I've been doing this challenge for over 1.5 years, like I can definitely see patterns of there's no such thing as a perfect month. Every month is different. And there's lots of unforeseen stuff. I've dealt with some stuff in my life. I've seen other people just, I don't know, you get weather, extreme weather things, different events, natural disasters, things like that. So anything can happen. It's just kind of how do you react? You keep going, you give up. But in terms of like how to adapt your language learning routine, I think minimalist I think it's effective. I think aiming for the like what is the minimum I have to do each day to keep the language active, and what's the minimum I have to do to go at one step forward. I think a lot of students, we overcommit. We'll say, okay, I'm going to do 2 hours every day. And then that just, after 1 week, it's a burnout. And then it's like several weeks of doing nothing, and then feeling bad, feeling guilty, feeling kind of depressed, feeling frustrated. It's better to start small, and then incrementally increase from there. I've had lots of bad experiences to finally reach that conclusion. So that's definitely one to work with, is start small, start with 5 minutes, start with 10 minutes. When that works and you can get that rhythm going, increase it slightly. So I think you seem to have a good streamlined template that's working for you. I think maybe you can incorporate a little bit of improvisation from time to time. So maybe like half of it scripted, half of it improvised, or maybe every other day. I do see in creative where you do have lots of limitations, where you give yourself like a very fixed frame, you can get very creative from there. I do see a lot of people where like there's no frame, and like that gets a little kind of, now what do I talk about, what vocabulary, what grammar. So having a micro goal, a very hyper focused micro goal, I think that would probably be helpful for you to say, I'm going to work on this grammar tense, or I'm going to work on this topic, and maybe learn the conversational, what can I do about that topic, master that topic, move on to the next one.
Exactly. I think that has to be with the issue of fluency also, right? Because I was saying something about that yesterday, and I had this insight because I never really grasped what people meant by, oh, you need to have a clear goal. If you want to speak a language, you have to have very, very clear goals. And because for me, for example, for Polish, I don't have a very clear goal because I don't need Polish. I'm just learning for fun. So everything I learn is, I adore it. I love it. And being able to understand and to read, and to listen, to understand someone speaking Polish, or even now starting to say a few words in Polish, it's amazing. I don't have these goals, but I connected these goals now with fluency, because I think that when people say, I want to be fluent in a language, it's when they don't have a very clear idea of what fluent means for them, what they want to do with the language. So, and it may make people anxious, frustrated, etc. So now I think I understand. For example, if you're going to travel and you need to be able to talk to someone in a store, you need to be able to ask things, understand what the salesperson is telling you. So that would be a micro goal, right? And focus on that. Once you have, I don't know, not even mastered that, but gotten used to that, and you're not so scared of that kind of language anymore, you can move on to something else and move on from one goal to the other when you realize you are already kind of comfortable with the language. I think I think it's something like that, I would say. right?
I think the comfort, getting comfortable with the language. I think for some of those situations where you're like you're being in, like, let's take this situation with like you're in a shop. I think the fluency is kind of coming from getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So in a shop or a store, like you could get a lot of expressions thrown at you, and I think you also need to develop like reactions or strategies of, okay, how do you deal with you didn't understand what they said? Like, okay, how do I kind of ask for repetition? How do I ask for clarification? How do I fake that I understood? How can I keep this conversation going? So I feel like if I have enough strategies in place where like I can't know everything in a language, but I need something to fall back. Like I need a plan B. If I have enough plan Bs, I can survive a situation. This is something I kind of realized from a failed job as a translator, where my boss was very critical when I was translating, and it was I was always very nervous. Like I didn't know, I wasn't an expert in marketing, I wasn't an expert in accounting, I wasn't an expert at this stuff, and she kind of guided me in such a way of like, you don't have to be an expert in this stuff. You just need to have the tools, or you need to know the people you can ask to get the answers. So I think with language learning, I'm getting more into that approach where I don't need to know everything, but I need to know what are the tools that I need to rely on, or who are the people I can get answers from. So if I were in a store situation, really, like, okay, what's my objective in there? Purchase this thing, get out of there as quickly as I can. I'm probably not going to have much of a conversation. So my objective is just get that thing, get it at the price, pay, and leave. And try to focus on those things and realize, like, okay, what could go wrong? I didn't understand what they said. I didn't know the vocabulary word for that thing. I mean, what could I do? I could point at it. I don't know how to ask, like, okay, do you accept a credit card? I just take it out of my hand and just hold it to them. Like, do you point at it? Hopefully they understand. So you don't have to have 100% fluency of all the vocabulary. You might need keywords and rely on the fact that, okay, this is another human. You'll figure out a way for communication to happen. But I'm in a similar situation, like with my Russian. Like I live nowhere near Russia, yet I keep practicing it. I keep getting better at it, and now my micro goal is I have so many students from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and so for me, my target is, can I teach a Russian speaker English grammar in Russian? That's like, I want to learn that vocabulary. Like, can I explain English grammar in Russian? Can I explain the English tenses in Russian? So if I have basically a dynamic where I'm teaching that target market of students, then I'm just going to maybe focus on, okay, how can I use my Russian effectively, or how can I motivate a language learning? Because you're incorporating two things, right? You're teaching and you're learning a language because your students speak that language. That's really cool. Another thing that you mentioned a few times is about burnout. Why do you think people burn out? You have experienced that yourself. So is it because was it lack of planning, or the kind of plan was not the right one? At that time? Oh, this is a great question. There's so many answers to failure. Success is it can kind of happen by chance, but failure has there's so many responses. There's so many reasons why people might fail. But
but what is failure? Failure is like stopping. You're not practicing that language anymore for a while. What is failure anyway?
Okay, well, the ultimate failure is stopping completely. I think there's one of my friends, Chris Brolham, and he runs a podcast, Actual Fluency, and he had a great quote there where like real failure, it's not the fact that you make a mistake, it's that you just stop completely and saying like you haven't failed if you're trying. I've seen these meme photos where it's like failure first attempt, first attempt in learning or something like that. So I mean, fail, it's not really fail because you're trying, but I think expecting failure is a healthy attitude, and it's not the fact that you fail that is permanent. It's what you do next. So it's the boxer who gets knocked down. Like that's not a knockout unless they stay down. Like if they get back up, they're still trying. They're still in the game. For a language learner, if you make a mistake or you skip your recording on one day, that's not such a big deal. It's how do you react after that? Do you let that become an excuse for completely giving up? Then that becomes a failure. And I've seen other pictures where it's like people putting like, okay, I failed, and just like these bricks kind of on their shoulders. And then another picture was taking those bricks and creating a staircase. And that kind of like leading up to success. I was like, whoa, that's an awesome picture. So it's not just like, I'm terrible, I'm bad, I don't know how to learn, this is never going to happen. I think we can be usually our worst critics on language learning. But if we can kind of, what do you do in reaction? Do you take this as a learning opportunity? Do you learn from the mistake, or do you give up? That's really where the failure is. And I think the scheduling,
let me just,
maybe the commitment. Yeah, go. Yeah.
No, it's just that Elizabeth is here, my fellow language learner in your challenge. Elizabeth, who is learning French, is here too, and I love her videos.
Yeah, a ton of people joining. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just want to say hi to everybody here. Thank you guys, everybody following. Yeah.
That's great. About the burnout is what makes a person feel like I don't want to learn this language anymore and now I stop. Is it just why would someone feel that way? Is it because it's too much, it's overwhelming? That's what I mean in terms of planning. The planning was not very good because it was too intense, maybe for the person.
There could be a lot of pressure. There can be internal pressure. There can be external pressure. There can be a sense of sometimes what I see from some students, like especially for like an exam, where the exam is a key to, okay, can you get accepted to university? Can you get a license for some profession? Does this mean that you're going to get like a new job? And so there's a lot of stuff that's linked to language proficiency. And sometimes people get a little too far focused on if I don't do this, if I don't get good at this, I'm having these missed opportunities. And that just puts like maybe too much pressure on them. So,
too much pressure,
and then when they see that the gap kind of increasing, they get a little desperate in terms of like, well, I'm going to put in double effort. I'm going to do double the hours. I'm going to like listen to more stuff. And that just it's a bigger risk of crashing even harder.
They get overworked.
Doing something overworked. So I think it's better start small and consistent to avoid these I think also for some students it might be, I'm only going to do this when I'm free. I'm only going to do this on the weekend. That really is going to slow down the progress. And then if you skip a day on the weekend, well, then you've lost a week, or something like that. Whereas if you put in something small each day, you've got a better chance of reducing this risk of burnout.
Yeah, I think planning and doing like that, starting small and easy, small and easy, and being consistent is good. It's better than some. I see this a lot. People saying, "Oh, I study when I feel like it." I don't feel like it, so I will not. In my case, I push myself. Of course, in this past 8 months, in your challenge, it's been 5 months. Of course, there were like, I don't know, half the days or more. No, not that much. I wouldn't feel like, oh yeah, let's record right now. I'm super excited to do this. But it's funny also, because it's very similar to going to the gym. This may sound a little bit like a cliche, but it is for me. Because when I need to exercise, but a few minutes before, I am like, oh my God, I really don't want to do this now. But once I start, in the minute I start doing it, it's my brain completely changes. There's something here that changes, and then I get excited about doing it, and I feel bad when it ends. It's very similar when I'm recording every day. So sometimes, yes, I'm ready to record, and sometimes I'm not. But then I start to work on the script. I start to find information, and I practice, and then I find it's fun to pronounce the words and then I get excited and I record the video. But about the tweakings, I remember now. Sometimes, most of the times, I try to memorize to remember the words. But sometimes, recently, especially recently, I said, no, I'm going to just read this text because I cannot. It's the end of the year. I'm going to get easy on myself, and this is a tweak that I do. But yeah, it's very similar to going to the gym, I would say. Jonathan,
yeah,
you listen. You listen to everybody. You listen to the recordings. It's unbelievable.
Not all. I mean, not every day, but I mean, there are a few questions where, like, yeah, I'm actually sincerely asking that question because I want to get some feedback on, like, so this question about somebody's routine or what works. Like, I was staying up late last night, kind of listening to at least like 25 recordings there. But
it's fantastic.
Just to answer this one student here about a cliche. Yeah. A cliche, this is like an overly used expression or concept, or maybe we use that phrase too much, so we, like, this idea of language learning and going to the gym, that might be this concept. Maybe too many people use that concept, but I would say this one, it's not overly used. I think there is a relationship there between exercise and language learning. It is a muscle. It does need to be practiced. It needs to be developed. And there's also if you go to the gym and you watch your trainer lift weights, that means nothing for you. You need to lift the weights. You need to practice them. If you watch a video, a yoga video, somebody doing yoga, and all you do is watch it, you don't get the physical benefits of just watching it. So language learning, it does need to be active. And you make a good point there of, like, I don't feel like it. I mean, all the times where I would say, like, I don't feel like it, but I do it anyway, is like, I don't feel like it. That's always there. So you need to go beyond that. I think Olympic swimmers, Olympic medalists, I don't want to do it, they have to kind of get past that and say, well, the benefits of me doing this, getting out of my comfort zone, pushing myself to what am I capable of, it's very easy to stay in a warm bed. That's your comfort zone. It's very comfortable. But to get something worthwhile, you have to do something that's outside of your comfort zone. That, like, growth, I hear that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. So if you're going to run a marathon, if you're going to kind of learn to be fluent in a language, you need to be willing to do stuff that's going to push you out of this comfort zone. If it's just like, I'm tired, I'm busy, I don't feel like it, those aren't the responses when you ask, like, somebody who's successful, what did you do to get you there? It's not, I was lazy, I gave up, I was tired.
Yeah.
I didn't find the time. It's they were willing to do stuff that meant like little sacrifices on maybe comfort, little sacrifices on maybe a little less sleep, maybe sacrifices on staying up late, maybe doing something when it was inconvenient, but they got a lot of benefit from it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Even last night, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to bed. But no, I want to listen to these recordings. I want to help people. I want to give them something. So I was like, no, I'm going to stay up a little bit later.
I am very, very thankful. I have to say this now. I don't know how much time we have left we have, but I'm very thankful for this, for your work. It's a lot of work you put in the challenge. I know it started, you know, and it grew. I don't know how you have been dealing with the challenge growing like that. If you have someone to help you, for example, I don't know. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I tell everybody, I tell my students, I tell people, I have some WhatsApp groups, I tell people to take part in the challenge, to use this opportunity to meet other people also, to meet foreigners and to expand, you know, to see the world in a way, that's what you do. And to see that people all over the world are in the same, we are all in the same boat, right? When it comes to learning a language. And it's a good feeling to...
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support for like coming back month after month and encouraging other students to join. And yeah, I love it. It really is a work of pleasure, of joy. I know a lot of people are benefiting from it, and yeah, that's the biggest reward I can see is people improving, people taking effort, making efforts to practice, and yeah, helping each other in a community.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So you're a polyglot. What are the languages? I know that you're learning Russian and Portuguese most recently. I haven't been helping you, but you have a good teacher there on on the challenge, right? I forgot her name. She's always helping you.
Yeah, Ali has been, she's joined recently, and then she's also been leaving a couple few comments. So that's always appreciated. And so I'm, first and foremost, I consider myself trilingual. I speak Spanish and French for the last 20 or so years, and I've lived in Paris, and I've been living in Mexico. So primarily, I'm trilingual, speaking those three languages, and I'm raising kids who are trilingual. They're learning Spanish, French, and English. So those are my core three languages that I work with on a daily basis. Beyond that, I've studied German at the university a long time ago, Italian one semester a long time ago, and then those have gotten really rusty, and thanks to this challenge, I'm like trying to get it more activated. Russian has just been this, how can I challenge myself to do something out of my comfort zone, and it's been it's been a very interesting experience to say, like, I'm nowhere near Russia, yet you can learn in the comfort of your home. You can go to a language school, you can record yourself, you can practice things online. So this has been a very interesting experience to see, like, all those excuses students make where I haven't gone to the US, I never traveled there, or I don't know a native speaker in my hometown. It's like, those are excuses. You can do this, because I keep doing it myself. But so yeah, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Russian. And another thing, trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, Arabic. That's been kind of a mixed results there, with Google Translate half the time, and trying to just figure out some expressions. And now Portuguese, can I separate Portuguese from Spanish? Can I separate it from French, or separate it from Italian? But yeah, trying to get those ones.
There were so many. I don't know if we have, I think it's just a minute now, but there were so many other things I wanted to ask you about. For example, your experience with Portuguese, and with Arabic too. People say it's one of the hardest languages. Yeah, we have 30 seconds now. But we need to do this again. We need to do this again, and because there is a lot more to talk about. But it was a pleasure. Thank you so much again. for accepting the invite. This is wonderful.
Oh, thank you, and thank you, everyone. I see all these comments. I'm gonna have to go in and listen and watch the video again and see your comments. But thank you, everybody, for joining here.
Yes.
We value your support and your enthusiasm here.